What's up? It has been 1 week to be exact that I had my surgery. Well, technically not to be exact because it's about 8 a.m. Wednesday morning and I actually didn't have to be I didn't have to be at the hospital till about 9:30 a.m. and my surgery wasn't until 11. But, you know, it's exactly a week since my surgery, my port surgery. And so I wanted to kind of give you guys the scoop about my port, the kind of port, how I'm doing, how I felt during my surgery, post-op, some pros and some cons, etc. Just stuff that could help someone else out and to kind of spread a little bit of knowledge, nothing too extreme because I am not a doctor or a nurse or have any kind of medical background besides some medical background in the conditions that I live with on a daily basis. So a port is a small implant. There are several different kinds of ports that is basically surgically placed underneath the skin between the muscle. Basically, there is a tubing, or some people call it a catheter, that runs basically from the port and through the skin, and then it goes through towards your heart and into the superior vena cava, which is the big vein that's beside your heart. Depending on what kind of port you have, I have the power port. It is purple, and it's basically a triangle with more rounder edges, and inside that triangle is a silicone base, and that is where you will access your port. So that is the kind of port that I currently have that's underneath my skin. A lot of people are kind of wondering if they should get a PICC line versus a port. There are different central lines, also a Hickman. I don't believe a Hickman is very a popular thing to get. I do know a few people who do have it, and honestly, those who do have it are out of the country. Not to say that it's only for those who are outside of the United States, because that's obviously not true. But we're going to talk about the difference between really the PICC and the port. And I'm not even going to go into full detail because I don't know a lot and I'm not going to act like I do. But with a PICC line, you are always accessed, meaning that there's always a line in. So I'm a water baby and I miss the ocean and being in the water in the pool or doing anything like that. And with a PICC line, just as a peripheral line, you will always have a tubing hanging out, which means the needle is always in your skin, which means it cannot get wet. And I would hate that restriction. Plus, a PICC line has like a shorter lifespan. I've read and heard so many different things, so do not take my word to heart. That's probably not what I'm trying to say, but whatever. Nonetheless, with the PICC line, I've heard that it can only last up to about a year. I've heard a little bit longer. And then with a port, I've heard it lasts, you can have it up to 5 years, maybe to 8, but then I've also heard it's 10 to 15 years. Nonetheless, as you can tell, there's a huge difference in the lifespan of a PICC and a port. And so when I see those two, a port seems more realistic. And, you know, a PICC line, a lot of people I know went from a peripheral line to a PICC line to a PICC line to a port, or even just to a PICC line and then to a port. I went from a peripheral line of a year and a half, and then I went to the port a week ago today. The nice thing is when you have a port, you're able to de-access it. So like when you do take a shower, you still have to cover it if you are accessed. But if you are trained and you are doing your accessing and de-accessing on your own without a nurse's help, you are able to take it out when you want. Take your shower. Some people, I doubt many people, take it out every day to take your shower and then re-access it. Especially if you're not getting infusions or medications daily. I get my infusions twice a week as of now, and I don't plan on going any more than that, but who's to say that won't change. So for me to, so that's not as much as many are doing it. So for me to for instance, do my infusion Monday and then Thursday, I may want to take it out after my infusion on Monday night, and then have Monday night shower, and Tuesday and Wednesday, and then even Thursday, and then put the line back in. So it does vary. I've only had it for the week, and I have not taken it out, and I don't know if I'm going to be doing that anytime soon, where it's going to be out every now and then. But there is that choice of being able to take it out and be free without it, and when it's out, you're able to be in the water and not have any complications of getting any sort of an infection as you would have if you had a PICC line. But again, if you have a PICC line, there's no way of getting it wet whatsoever. So my veins were shot. I had a peripheral line for a year and a half, almost to be exact. It was just over a week where I had spoken to the doctor about basically just kind of what's been happening for the past several months, it feels like about 6 months. And then at the end of the conversation, he's like, hey, so are you still doing your infusions? And I go, yeah. And he goes, I think it's about time to do a port. And I was like, great, because my veins have been so bad that each month it got worse. There was time, you know, here and there where it was okay, but essentially it got worse each month through my infusions. And there was a point where, this point has happened many times, but this was the most recent, probably like the second to last poke before I was able to get the port, where I had multiple nurses, multiple days back to back in 1 week, where I got, I think it was about 9 to 10 pokes, meaning 9 to 10 needles, separate times, because we could not get a vein. And then the day that we finally got the vein, it was like a bloodbath, blood everywhere. And so I've had bad veins for the longest time. Because I need intravenous access on a regular basis, this is just a lot easier, and it keeps me from damaging my veins anymore. You have to make sure to stick with the protocol with a port, because it's nothing to mess with. Many even try to tell me to think about getting a port, like really think about it, that they know my veins were bad, but it's not anything to mess with. And as I've mentioned, it's been a year and a half, which means a year and a half worth of pokes and blood and pain, and this has been discussed, and obviously we weren't ready to do it. My doctors weren't ready to do it. And there was a point where I understood, and you know, it was never a discussion. I said I would stick it out getting the peripheral line on a regular basis. But again, doctors know that after a certain amount of time, it's just not good for you. And you can get infections as well with a peripheral line. But with a port, you know, you are more high risk, but then you're also safe. It's a little confusing. But there are so many things you have to be wary about, like infection, aka sepsis. That is so scary, and honestly, I wasn't really nervous about any of that until I got the port. And anytime I flush my line or use heparin, I get nervous that I'm gonna do it wrong, even though it's all placed and it's not moving, so I can't necessarily do it wrong. Besides maybe like not cleaning the bottom of my line with alcohol. So blood clots is another thing. If you do not use heparin after some time of the line that's inside your chest, it can form a blood clot, kind of, or not blood clot, but blood dried up at the end. So you always have to use your heparin after the fact, so after you are done with your infusions, and it's also the last step after you flush your line. I always say that if you are going to forget anything, whether it be flushing or heparin, forget the flushing, because heparin is needed. Heparin is what's going to help make sure that your line is infection free, there's no clotting, there's no blood kind of drying up at the end of the line. That is what's needed. Yes, you want to do both, but if you're going to forget about either two, forget about the flush, the saline flush. Do not forget about the heparin. That is a necessity. You want to always follow sterile protocol when it comes to your port. With a peripheral line, yes, you want things to be sterile in the sense that your hands are clean, you're wearing gloves, you're using alcohol. But with a port, there's more to it. You want to have a sterile field, which means that you're using the cloth that comes in the package, and everything goes in there that's on there is sterile. You have to open up the packages on the edge with, you know, with your gloves. You want to throw everything out of the packaging but not touch anything. Again, I knew before and I know now, this is a very serious thing. This is by your heart. It's the line is actually part now. Yes, it's part of the big vein that is side by side to your heart, that pushes blood to your heart. So it's not anything to mess with, and you want to make sure that you just follow any and all protocols when it comes to having a portacath. So about my surgery, I'm sorry I keep looking that way. There's a window there and it's just natural to see things move and I keep looking. So about my surgery, I was not under any general anesthesia. I'm sure people have if they're doing other stuff or if they have issues. They put people under general anesthesia, which means that you are completely knocked out. I was not completely knocked out. I was, so they first did sedation, which is a form of anesthesia. It's the anesthesia, AK, I think it's called like the twilight anesthesia. Basically means that it makes you very drowsy and very loopy and very tired. Some stay awake during surgery and some do not. Some completely knock out and some will kind of drowse out, go to sleep a little bit and wake up here and there. I have always knocked out. It's the same anesthesia they give you for like a colonoscopy or endoscopy and maybe other surgeries or procedures. I've had 2 colonoscopies now and 1 endoscopy, and all of them I was knocked out cold. I don't even remember much about anything. So with this surgery, when I went in, they were like, okay, so we're gonna put in this stuff that's going to this, and then I don't even remember them telling me about the, well, okay, I do remember them saying they're gonna put some, not all, but just some of the sedation in my system, and I remember saying, it's not really doing anything, and it was like 2 minutes in, and I felt nothing, and then it hit me, and I go, yeah, I mean, I feel a little drowsy, a little bit, nothing crazy, like I've had, you know, Benadryl, and I was knocked out cold, but that's all I remember saying, and then I was knocked out cold. They also give you a local anesthetic, which basically, well, it's local, which means that it's kind of like, sometimes it goes through your IV, sometimes it's a cream for that particular area. So if they're doing it here and they put a cream, they put the cream everywhere to numb your upper, you know, your outer skin, your external area. Sometimes it'll be an IV that will just be localized as well, just depending. Lidocaine is the brand that most do use, and so that I did get that as well. And I think all probably get that during a surgery, that where you get cut up. So yeah. So when they do the surgery, I got 2 holes or 2 incisions. I've known people to get 3, but I don't really know why, so I'm not gonna go into detail about that. But when you get the 2, there are 2 places that they choose to go, and I guess it just depends on the doctor. So when you do it, or when they do it, they put the first incision here, like mine is. Okay, it's really bright. And then sometimes they go up in the neck. I did not get the neck, I got here. And then the other one is, you can see it's black and blue right above this white here, which is the IV. So that's where they go. So right now, they basically put a glue instead of stitches. There are stitches inside my chest that will dissolve. So they put that over there, and then they put a bandage, like a clear liquid bandage over it. You can see it, and that will also dissolve on its own as well. And the same thing under here. They glued it, the incision, and then put this clear coating that's under my bandage to keep it protected. And so, and again, they either go down here or they will go up here. So from what my understanding is that they connect the tubing, or some people say catheter, from the port, and then it goes up, and then it goes back down, and then into the vein itself. With my process, it took me, so I had to go into the hospital at 9. I had to be there at 9:30, and then my surgery was at 11. I was done by 12. They say 45 minutes to an hour, depending. If you have more issues, then of course you'd be in for a longer time. And then it's about an hour recovery, and then you're able to get picked up and driven home. You cannot drive home. Someone has to drive you because you've been under anesthesia of any sort. I actually did not get that much bruising. My bruising didn't show until the 4th day, which is basically right there, and that's about it. I have a little bit of bruising here. This is not bruising, this is makeup from special effects, and I can't get it off my skin. So there's that. Okay, let's talk about basically today, post-op limitations, accessing and de-accessing, stuff like that. So, as of today, I'm able to lift my arm up. I'm holding it because it still hurts a little bit, when I could not do that 2 days ago. Yesterday, I learned that I could when I had lifted my arm for my hair, and I go, whoa! But I can't lift it up and then bend it over my head. That's still painful. I am able to not only lay on my back, which is obvious, but I'm able to lay on my side, but it has to be my left side. Any movement to my right, the pressure still hurts. My pain now is only in the morning, and that is upon waking, and meaning getting up, because my body's been laying at a position for so long, and then when I move, the pressure, the blood moves, that it's unbearable. It's definitely better. When I get up, normally I get up and I hold my chest so that there's no pressure, and it does fade away like fairly quickly. When in the beginning, I would shed a couple tears, or I'd go, oh my god, it was bad. Any movement was hurting. Going upstairs, doing this, it would hurt. So, I mean, yes, it's sore. Doing all this, I can still feel it. The morning's still bad, and then bending down to like pick up something because of the pressure still is sore. But out of the 7 days process, technically 8 days. I took a ibuprofen once, and I think that was day 2. Day 2 was the worst. Day 1 was bad once the anesthesia kind of faded, and the sedation and the numbing of the medications. I did get sick because of the anesthesia. The doctor said I was throwing up a lot after everything kind of weared off on the first day, surgery day. And then it was very painful, but I didn't take any medication. Day 2, I couldn't stop crying. It was bad. So I did take one 800 milligram ibuprofen that you get from the doctor, not over the counter, that I've had for a while. And it actually worked. But I don't like taking medication because I take so much already. So I took the one, and I kind of just lived through it, and it got better. Day 3 was much better, and then day 4 and 5, it kind of just faded. But again, I am still sore. I'm thinking that another week I won't be sore anymore, and I should be able to just live my freaking life. There's a lot of limitations when you have a port over a PICC, or both, or whatever. So my biggest limitation with a port, even though you can take out the port, it's not something you'd want to do if you needed access on a regular basis, because then you just have to keep re-accessing your port, is showering. So yes, they have a lot of shower things that put over it, but they're never completely protected, your port itself. So I kind of double duty it. So I've had these before my port. I would use it to cover up my peripheral line because I hated wearing like a glove that went all the way up your arm and you have to like tape it down. It was just so much. So I use Hydro Seal. It comes in a pack of 7, and they're 7x7 size. This is actually what it looks like, and it's just taped on the edges. I also have something called Aqua Guard. It's essentially the same thing, but much smaller. So this is the difference in size here. So what I would do is I would take, what I do is take a gauze, whatever size you want. This one is actually a little too big. And I basically just put it over and then I take the smaller aqua guard and put that over that, and then I put this over this. And so that is how I protect myself when I'm in the shower. I'm a person that likes to take my shower every day. I don't take a shower every day because, you know, being sick, sometimes it's just not an option. Sometimes I have to take what you call a whore bath. That's what my parents told me it was called when I was younger. Basically, it's when you take a shower, or you can't take a shower, so you just kind of wash your parts at the sink. So, but when I do take a shower, these are what I use. Again, Hydro Seal, Aqua Guard, and then a gauze. And I got both of these. This is from a store, of course, but I got these from my home health care. And so that's the biggest limitation I have when it comes to a port or having my peripheral line, and I'm sure people that have a PICC line. Other than that, I don't really have anything just yet. I do, I sometimes keep this in my shirt. I actually have an alcohol cap. It must have fell off during the sleep, so I have to get another one. So if I'm wearing like my bra and then a shirt, I'll put this under here. But it keeps popping out. So if I wear a sweatshirt, I'll do that. But otherwise, I'll keep it out. I did ask doctors about that because I know that people do it. And a lot of people are like, God, you're just so, you know, out there. You want everyone to know you're sick because you're keeping this out, you know, keep it in, da, da, da. So I asked the doctors, like, what do they think about that? Why do people do it? And they go, well, it's because it's, especially in the summertime, people sweat. And they don't want to get infection, especially for those who don't wear a cap. What if your cap comes off? The cap is on, but who's to say that your sweat doesn't sweat down and then go on the sides and then goes into the alcohol cap, which now it's mixed with alcohol. And sometimes alcohol, I mean, you have to switch those things out like every day. The things are dry, and then it goes right into the line. So yeah, anyway. If you guys are, or let's just say, if you guys have any questions, you can of course comment below and I will answer them as best as I can. If you are nervous about your surgery, I'm hoping that this kind of helped you with the surgery. The surgery wasn't scary to me at all. Even though when you go into the room, it's a little intimidating. But, you know, I honestly think you'll get a doctor that's kind of like black and white, meaning you'll get a doctor who is like, no, you're not getting a port. No, 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 no. And they'll give you reasons. And then you get the doctor who's like, yeah, I think we should do it because of X, Y, and Z. I'm sure there are doctors that are kind of mediocre. I hope I answered any of your questions. And if you have any more questions, you can comment below. Again, speak to your doctor if you are interested in getting a port or want any more information about a port. And I hope that I kind of helped you with any questions you may have because you are getting your port. So that's it. I will see you guys next time. Bye.